Hello, and welcome to another Conversations in Time podcast, the award-winning counterfactual history podcast that tops the What If charts. Enough of me, though. It's over to the guys.
Hello, and welcome to another Conversations in Time podcast. I'm John N.
And I'm Ian G.
Right, so today is another special episode for us. We've got our first returning guest. Great to have her on, with Gillian Utesch. Hello, Gillian.
Hi, good to be here.
Excellent. Ian, where are we heading on the counterfactual in this episode?
Well, let's see how counterfactual it becomes, but we won't worry too much about that, shall we? But
yeah.
Say again.
Future factual.
Future factual, yeah. So we just want to talk with Gillian around some aspects of AI, of any aspects of AI. Let's see where the conversation takes us today. As we were just talking offline a second or two ago, it's certainly in the news all the time. You can't open a web browser news-wise without somebody talking about AI to one form or another. So let's just see how it's...
We can't even open a web browser without the AI active phase.
It's
absolutely,
That's true as well. Yes, absolutely.
So, Gillian, let's have an update of where you've been in the last few months since we last spoke. I'm sure there's lots of exciting things have happened.
We have honestly seen a big shift back to personal branding. So our company started with our single offering, which was our AI platform. And the whole goal was that this platform would help to automate and make more efficient your outbound LinkedIn engagement for your existing connections and to help you get new connections. But what we've noticed is that, oh my gosh, as our clients are getting more and more connections, they're now like, ooh, how does my LinkedIn page look? How do I present online? When someone Googles me, what do I look like? Do I look like a thought leader, or have I not posted in 6 months? What does that say about me? So we've seen a big shift towards, I would say, online social awareness. So people are becoming very aware of how they look and how they're perceived online.
All right.
But does that mean that they're concerned how they look to fellow human beings, or how they look to AI search engines?
To human beings. Because for the most part, most of the AI tools out there are just to do the legwork of connecting you. When you have to actually engage and communicate, they can do a step or two, but they can't do 12. They can't get on a video call like this and pitch your product and answer questions and do a walkthrough demo for you that feels like it is authentic to that person. So it has definitely started to trend towards where I was hoping it would, taking the tasks out that are not essential for humans to do, giving more time for the tasks that are essential. Building your online presence, that's something only you can do. You know how you want to be presented online. Yes, we can farm some of that out to ChatGPT, which I'm not a fan of. We don't even use it. But to help write your articles and all that. But for the most part, it gives a lot more time for people to now be aware versus before they were just trying to get activity.
So could you see, it's funny, and we are going to cover another aspect of your career as well, Gillian. So let's cover that now. So when I was contacting you again, I thought I'd look you back up on LinkedIn, and it mentioned that you're a podcaster. That was something that you hadn't mentioned the last time. So how's that going?
I'm glad you bring that up, because it's a great segue into how I always envisioned AI working with people. Taking tasks off your plate that are not essential for humans, giving you time on your plate to do things that are essential for humans. I think back to when I was working pre-COVID, I would come home exhausted, and I had truly worked all day. I had done this task, I'd shuffled this paper, I'd done this, and I felt like I was accomplished. I had earned my check for that day, but I had not made near the progress with anything like I have since I've started using AI to do those types of tasks. So the podcast actually started, I got the idea last November. I usually take off from Thanksgiving till about New Year's. And that's another thing AI lets us do. We've gotten so much automation and so much momentum in our business that I can take off that amount of time. And I use that to kind of just think. I didn't realize how much of my brain I wasn't using just to think, because it was processing so many tasks in a day. And so I was kind of thinking through what I wanted to do, what I wanted to do with the business. And at that time last year, we'd already ventured into the Job Seeker Network. We'd already started getting subscribers who weren't necessarily using it as a solopreneur, entrepreneur for biz dev. It was individual people who were using it to build their network online to do a job shift. That way they're not a resume and stack of resumes. So we were already kind of working on that. I started thinking, I was like, I really think that's enough. I don't want to put anything else on my company's plate right now. I think making that job seeker switch is enough, or adding that to our list. And so then I kind of shifted to my personal life, and I started thinking about our daughter turning 18 tomorrow, actually. And it is. I was like, as I started thinking about it, I was like, what can I get her? Like, I mean, she has everything in the world. But if she doesn't, she'll ask for it and we'll order it on Amazon. And she's probably listening to this going, there's Kendra Scott necklaces I don't have. Like, of course, there's something you could buy me. But I really wanted to give her a Swiss Army knife. I wanted to give her a tool belt that she could utilize in moments when I may not be there with her to help solve through these things. And so I reached out to some of my close girlfriends who I thought had some really cool stories. And I said, hey, can we do just a podcast? And it was honestly, I say podcast at that time very loosely, meaning we were going to record some things on Zoom and then maybe host them on my YouTube channel.
Well, to be fair, just so you know, I did listen to your first 2 episodes and I thought they were very professional. I was saying to Ian, you're a natural host. I thought you were very good at how you managed to get the information out of your friends. I know you've got a lot more I don't know, you may have all of your friends on there because there's a lot of episodes. So
that's what surprised me was it's become an international movement. I don't want to ruin the surprise, but my team reached out to our guests who are all over the world now, and they did a little happy birthday video for Jane, just kind of sharing their piece of advice that they have that's kind of based off their podcast. And we're booked through the end of 2026. It's absolutely. And we talk about everything from, we had a sex worker, talked about how she got into that business, what she liked, didn't like. We have people who talk about your nervous system, childhood trauma, book clubs. It's amazing, just the diverse topics and the vulnerability of women, what they're willing to talk about. And as that kind of led then to our online community, which then led to our Superwoman University, where our guests actually have little classrooms within our big university. So folks can go into that classroom and actually engage more with that guest, learn more about her breathing technique or, whatever it is that she's kind of sharing. So we were happy to kind of do that. And then that led to the launch of our 501c3, which is standwithjane.org. And it works with women who are working with white-collar domestic violence. Also, not something I thought I'd be doing, but all thanks to AI for giving us the time and bandwidth to be able to do that.
All right. And just for our listeners, the podcast is actually called The Superwoman Handbook. So obviously, I have to say, I'm probably not the target demographic for that particular podcast, but I did find it interesting, and I would certainly recommend it to anybody who's to our podcast. I mean, yes, we are the number one counterfactual podcast on the internet. Prove us wrong. We don't know anybody else who's out there, so that's one thing. But our success maybe is a bit of a slow burner. But maybe you got the Midas to Gillian. So maybe drop us into a conversation on one of the podcasts, and who knows, you might get an extra listener.
Sure.
Well, we like to think we like to think, and I think we are fairly liberal with a small L. Is that the right word? Yes. I always think about it. And socially progressive. So we it's always in the eye of the beholder, obviously. But so I must admit I haven't had an opportunity to listen to it, but I've just made a note of it. I mean, John's repeatedly mentioned it to me, but that was just last week, wasn't it? You discovered it, John. Give a tip.
Yeah. It wasn't that long, yeah.
Thanks very much, interesting.
No, that's right. And I was trying to do a bit more research into AI. It's funny, there's been on the TV in the UK, there's been a lot more, and strangely enough, there was one on 2 nights ago about he's a blind comedian, and he won the equivalent of Dancing with the Stars, and he's blind and all this sort of stuff. Very good. And he did it, and he's a real techie, and he went to see Meta. They've got some AI glasses, that potentially would help. And they're not trying to sell them as aids for people who are blind, but he was getting a lot out of it. And then he was showing you on his smartphone all of the features that are available for people who are blind, which, I think most people don't know about. And so there's and he was talking a lot about, this is AI and that's AI and all that stuff. I mean, one of the things that you mentioned that is something I wouldn't say I'm interested in, but I'm interested in your perspective. You were saying that you can't have an AI do a presentation and answer questions, but I think that's actually, you could do that. The way that the AI works with, not deep fakes, I'm not, an image which looks like a human. They are getting better and better. And certainly you can talk to certain AIs and they sound normal. They have a natural speech. It's almost like that doesn't seem that far away, where you may say, all right, well, I've got a standard presentation. I can present that to people and people will think it's you. You could do that. Why not? It is you in the sense that, it's your presentation and the AI is only presenting the information that you want presented. I don't know. It's an area where there's a lot of investment and movement. And I think that's I don't know whether it's a socially difficult thing, but ultimately it's going to be more commonplace, I believe.
It kind of falls into, I coached cheerleading when I was in college. And what I would tell a lot of my girls was, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah.
They would have this tumbling skill, kind of. Or they would have this, just because you can doesn't mean you should. So yes, AI can do a lot of things, but I stay focused with my company and with our client base of only using AI to take things off the plate that allow them to do what they want to do. If you're a business owner, or if you're a seller, most people enjoy that. They enjoy their presentations. They enjoy engaging with their clients. They want to do that. It brings them personal fulfillment. So we don't want to take that away. So we give them time to do that without being stressed by taking time. So yes, you can. That's just kind of that's not the goal of our users.
But isn't, you said there most of your, many of your users, I think that's what you said, enjoy doing presentations. And yes, I can get that. But the one thing I would say is, I guess you're speaking to people who are probably fairly charismatic. And John and I worked in the same company off and on for many years. And we came across
decades
indeed. We came across a couple of chief executives who were extremely charismatic, really charismatic characters, and they could stand up there and read a phone book, as the expression goes. But we've also been in lots and lots of meetings where people just pull a PowerPoint and read the PowerPoint, and I think, actually, I can read. I don't need you to read it for me. Yeah. So. Yeah, and funny enough, I volunteer now, and I had to go on a little training course last week, and the lady there, bless her socks, as we say, she just read the PowerPoint in a monotone voice. And I think there's levels of presentations. If you're a chief executive, absolutely, you don't want some AI doing it. But if you're giving a safety brief, in a plane or wherever, I mean, all right, they sometimes use videos these days, don't they? But even so, there's definitely scope there. Wouldn't you think so?
Absolutely. It just kind of falls under, just because we can, should we?
Yeah.
Like AI, it can do a lot with phone calls. And I'm constantly approached by companies who are wanting to kind of either sell me their business, to kind of make it a bolt onto mine, or make it a referral partnership or things like that. And I have not found a phone system that I feel authentically operates like a human. And so I'd rather still have our humans that do our inbound calls. So it just depends on what solution you're looking for. Now, many people find those call programs absolutely acceptable, and that's fine for them. It just depends on kind of what your go-to-market strategy is.
But I mean, taking this point of just because we can, should we? You said it better. I can't remember exactly what you said. Just because we could, we should. Yeah. Interesting enough, John and I spoke about this frequently, and at a philosophical level, how far do we take that? Because I keep saying to John, why do we need driverless taxis? What's wrong with taxis? They are to do. You get in a taxi, you can speak to the guy, or if it's Uber, you can either choose not to speak to the guy. That option. I don't want you to speak to me. Yes, I'm okay for you to speak to me. Why do we need somebody not to drive the taxi? Now, I get the user, the owner aspect can be cheaper, but let's see. But as a user, so philosophically, do we as a society need to say, why are we doing this? Do we have to replace X, Y, Z with AI? What are these people replace? What are they going to do? I mean, so
that's the goal. And so it kind of comes back to the way that I look at technology and AI, and the way that our company is structured is that it is all based off amplifying the human experience, not removing it. And so the challenge, what a lot of people don't talk about, and usually when I do bring it up, I get a lot of pushback because nobody wants to talk about it. By taking away these small essential tasks, it forces humans to do bigger, better tasks. And how overwhelming is that? So it's not that we're taking your job away. In the example of the taxi driver, it's not that we're taking your job away. We're asking you as a human to do something greater than drive a taxi. Oh, that does not go over well. And so that kind of comes back to just what you're saying, the morals and the ethics. And I kind of stand behind, just because we can get technology to do a lot of things, I don't think we should. I think we should keep it in the lane of amplifying the human experience, not taking it away. Another topic that kind of comes up a lot that is not popular is using, as ChatGPT grows, as more and more people use it, then we're getting a lot more of the social signaling in it. And so it's learning, or virtue signaling, however you want to kind of put it. And so we're getting a lot of that in. And is that fair? Is that so? People who don't haven't had enough life experience, who haven't ventured into these things on their own, they're taking this at face value. And so is that fair to them? They're not given both sides of the equation. So that's going to be, if I think about the next big, besides it's taking our jobs, I mean, that taboo is already there. It's going to be the social signaling, the virtue signaling that comes in. I think is the next controversy.
So I have a contentious one, and it'd be interesting to see your perspective on this. Although based on what you're saying, you'll probably be on Ian's side, and I'm not saying that I'm on the other side. And that's about music, right? So my son is he's not a musician, but he plays in a band, and I was talking about I could download a program and I could start creating my own music, and then we're having a heated, debate about whether that's right or not. I've got another friend who writes a lot of songs, who's a lawyer, and we were talking about this as copyright. And then the law in the UK is if an AI creates music and in theory it's plagiarized somebody else, you can't sue the AI, or you can't sue the person who's created it. But how do you, for me, I can't see how that's going to get stopped. That's something that is here, so would you, I don't know whether you're in favor of it, but there's a question of, okay, so would you buy music? If you're not in favor of it, would you buy music that was AI generated and not actually thought of by, and where do you sit on that particular argument?
It comes back to amplifying the human experience. I like being a human. I like doing human-like things. I like creating music I can't play worth anything. And only my drunk self can sing, but I still enjoy it. Give me some maracas, give me a tambourine. I'm going to love it. Or go out and listen in a nice, weather in the summer on the beach and listen to live music. I like being a human. And I like if we can utilize AI to give, like your attorney friend, for example. If playing music and creating content like that frees his mind, amplifies his human experience 100%. Let's do that. Let's use AI to take tasks off his plate so that he has an extra 2 hours once a week to go, rip chords or whatever musicians say around, versus using his time, because to me, that makes a happier human. But that said, we're all different. There are people who may get more joy utilizing AI to create music than using a tambourine and a maraca and whatever else. So I don't think it's wrong to take that joy from them. That said, it's a horrible example, but I've yet to find one that aligns. In the U.S., we have gun laws, and there's a lot of people on both sides. Guns can be good, they can be bad. People will come on with 100 stories about how gun ownership saved their life, saved their livestock. Countered with people who say how it didn't. And I think we're going to start to hear those same stories with AI. And so there will become some boundary created as to what, but then that leads to who is who is going to be, is it Elon Musk? Is it like, who is it? Who are we going to, global use to be the person that draws the line in the sand?
Yeah. I mean, you're right. I mean, I can't see it being Elon Musk. So, I can't see him ever drawing a line anywhere.
Right.
But as I was saying to Ian, I feel that some of the AI benefit, which could be significant, particularly, say, in medicine, in terms of research and all that type of stuff, what falls out of it is all of this other stuff, which then becomes more of a moral problem, which is not related to science. It's just that the AIs have then become that good. You can make them do something else. It just, somebody goes, oh, well, I can make it do this. And it's like, yeah, that's, creating videos, making a film, that there's no actors in, all this, nobody wrote the script. It's just a 90-minute blockbuster that somebody tapped in. Here's a storyline. I mean, that will come. There's no doubt about that, where you just write a treatment for a film and it will create it. Yeah, you could make a lot of money. Who knows? But ultimately, the driver is to get all of this really cool stuff for cancer treatments and fantastic new materials and batteries that do this, that, and the other, and all this sort of stuff, which will benefit everybody. And it's a difficult case to say, all right, well, who's going to start putting the fences up and saying, well, you can use it for this, but you can't use it for that.
Yep.
And there's lots of countries that are thinking about it. But then when you get some other country that doesn't care or won't put the barriers up, and what's the point in having the barriers? That it's very difficult. I think the next 5 years are going to be quite significant. I think that as it becomes more mainstream, I think that's the thing. At the moment, AI isn't that mainstream, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm making a guess. I mean, your guess is better than mine because you're that much closer to AI. But I mean, I don't know. What do you think AI would look like in 5 years, considering how fast it's accelerating at the moment?
I think that, like all new technologies, there was a lot of curiosity, novelty, followed by fear when it first kind of started. Now it's kind of like, okay, it's like a blender. I know how a blender works now. I'm not it's awesome. Makes a great margarita. I want to own a blender. But I'm not trying to figure out how to use a blender because when ChatGPT and AI first came out, people were trying to use it for everything. I'm not trying to use a blender to make bread. Like I know like kind of what tools to use. So I think that we're going to start to make that transition and people are then going to decide on their own. And I'm hoping that collectively we all choose to be human. I mean, being a human is awesome. We only get to do it one time. Like why miss out on a moment of it? And so I'm hoping that collectively we will say, okay, we've played with this toy. The novelty is off. I know how I like to use it in my life, how I don't. And I'm going to use that to then give me more time to do what I want to do. But that said, there's still going to be people who get joy, just like I'm not, I couldn't create Microsoft or Apple or QuickBooks or any of this stuff. Thank goodness there are people who can do that. That brings them joy. And using the software brings the users joy. We're still going to have that. I don't want to say subset because it makes it sound like they're weird. But we're still going to have that collection of people who get joy out of making movies with AI. Equally, the people who enjoy watching movies from AI. I'm just hoping that as a society, as a world, we decide that, AI is cool, but I don't want it to do everything it can possibly do. I want to use it in a responsible way.
So, Gillian, I'm going to use a term, and I hope you're not offended by it, because it's got the SH1T words in it. But have you heard of the term shitification?
I haven't, and now I'm intrigued.
Right, so shitification, and apologies for everybody, I won't use the word again.
I love it.
But what it refers to is the internet or the World Wide Web, search engines such as the Google in their early days were clearly, a step forward, arguably a leap forward. But eventually, everything turned to SH1T. The Google search engine now is dreadful. Mm-hmm. The algorithms do not work as well as they did 5 years ago. That's my opinion. There's many. You ironically Google that opinion. But and so everything starts off really good, and it is valuable, and it is cutting edge, and it is a leap forward. But eventually, it just fills up with SH1T. I think AI is half a step there already. Any thoughts on that?
100%. I mean, you basically said in a much more succinct way. Um, what I there's a lot of I don't want to say people are getting wore out with it, but just the novelty is kind of wearing off, and they're kind of going, I don't need to know every single. There was all these apps. I'm trying to remember what it was called, but it was like you download this app and it'll teach you how to use the new AI software every single day. Why? Just because we can doesn't mean we should. Do we need to spend our time doing this? Or would we rather go out and walk our dog? Would we rather go to the gym and work out like we threaten we're going to? So I definitely think I think back to when the internet, first came out, and oh God, I'd have to like sneak in the library because I didn't have a computer and I didn't have Wi-Fi at home. And so I'd have to sneak in the library and say I was using it for class research, but really I was getting on my MySpace page. And the idea of being able to talk to people all over the world. Now I'm like, nah, I don't want to. I'm very funny about who I connect to and who I talk to because the novelty is off.
Well, and also look at things like Facebook, and we don't really have to mention X more than Facebook is unusable. It's just unusable. It's full of random feeds off of some algorithm. If you've got any family members in there that post anything, you might say they posted something, but scroll through and there's hundreds of other groups of things that you've got no interest in. It thinks you're interested in them, and maybe you are, but you're not interested in hundreds of them on a daily basis. Twitter's become, or X has turned into we all know what it's turned into. But that's what that term refers to. And I can't but feel, as you described, that if you take away the medical uses and mathematics and I can do this quicker if I'm a massive corporate organization. And interestingly, the number of lawyers being employed as graduates down in the UK is down like 25% allegedly because of AI. You take those layers out from a user, as an American say, the average Joe in the street is just full of stuff. It's and you think how do you, as a society, how do we march our way through that? Because it's just, and coming back to your point, just because we can, does that mean we should? Who's going to regulate that? Do we really leave it to the market to regulate that, or do we need regulation?
I think there will be just kind of like gun laws. I think there will become it'll be a hybrid. There'll be some degree of regulation, and then there'll just be some degree of personal social regulation. That's why I'm hoping that the human wins. I'm hoping that there are enough people who love the human experience that they're not willing to cash in their one ticket that they get to do this. In the US, we're getting ready to have Thanksgiving. And where it's the big talk is how many people are coming and where are you going and what are you having and da 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 da. And I always host what I call the strays Thanksgiving. Whoever has a spouse out of town and they'd be home by themselves, or they've got this, kind of thing. Whoever has nowhere to go, all the strays, I'm like, come to my house. And we usually end up with about 20 people, and the 20 people that I think are going to come don't end up coming, and a different 20 come, and they bring their brother and their brother's daughter and their dog, and it's just all I never know, but I love it because it's human. And I don't need 200 people, kind of going back to what you're saying with the algorithms. So yes, AI can create online, if we're bringing it kind of talking parallel here, online can get tons of traction, tons of hits, but it's not human. I'd rather have 20 people hanging out at my house for a couple of hours, learning about them, chatting with them, than having 200 people and big picnic tables in my yard that I can't really connect with. So it kind of just comes back to quality over quantity. And the human connection, like when we use our avatars on LinkedIn, yes, our subsets are usually 2,500 that we ask our avatars to go after in each workflow. I may get 2 people that actually want to talk to me from that 2,500. I'm cool with that. I don't want to talk to 300 people. I want to talk to 2 who really vibe with me, who really get what my company does, gets how we can support them, as a personal brand or as a business. So I'm hoping that the humanity wins. People would rather have 20 humans at their house eating than 200 holograms sitting around a computer, engaging with them.
The only problem with that is that you expect people making the decision, and if money has anything to do with it, then a different decision is made. It's a bit like, for me, it's a bit like climate change. It's why are people ignoring the fact that the climate is changing? And because it's all about cash. I mean, there's an interesting thing about AIs. I don't know whether you know this, but there's a AI safety council or something. It's a voluntary sort of thing that go around testing AIs to see whether they're safe or not. And I remember hearing a news item when DeepSeek came on the market, the Chinese one.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And they were saying they tested it and it failed all of their safety tests,
Yeah.
And then the next thing that they were saying was, well, the sort of news coming out of ChatGPT and all of the others was that they were going to start, because of cost and trying to keep up with the Chinese, they were going to start not putting these safety constraints in just so that they could compete, and it's almost like, well, it's just opening a door that is just going to get wider and wider instead of it getting narrower and narrower with more regulation.
We've seen that movie before, so to speak, with movies. I mean, I remember sneaking into movies as a teenager that I never should have seen, but we didn't really have like the rating system. So I think that was kind of our first step, saying, okay, we're going to create these movies because it brings people joy to create them. It's going to bring joy to some group of people to watch them, but it's not appropriate for everyone to watch them. And so then we kind of use that same process when the internet started happening and putting safeties on browsers so kids didn't accidentally type in something and go, whoa, that is not what I thought that was. And then you're having to have that conversation. Well, when two people love each other, so it's like you're trying to have these, and it's the same thing. We're going to have to go through that same process with AI and AI tools.
Well, I mean, they haven't got past that on the internet, have they? I mean, there's in the UK, it's caused quite, I wouldn't say a big deal, but I mean, at least that legislation has gone into effect, which can only be a good thing. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
And Australia's taken it a step further, isn't it? Australia's banned children. I know it's not AI, but Australia's banned children. They are children. Children under 16 from social media accounts and stuff. So, but the interesting thing about that, and without getting into the politics of it, that's raised certain hackles, shall we say, amongst individuals in America, ultimately, because that's where most of the, it's obviously some are Chinese, but, the likes of Musk and co have seen it as anti-competitive. How dare you stop individuals accessing our software? Well, what about the health of our nation? Well, that's not my problem. That's your problem. Yeah, but this is, so it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I'm slightly, I get that you're an advocate, and I also hear what you're saying about humans, which is very reassuring. But I'm quite worried about the whole thing. I must admit, I see it as the lowest common denominator seems to win out on these things. Life becomes that bit more the same everywhere, homogenous. You could be anywhere. You could be in any airport now, and everything's the same. And that's not really AI, but it's on the cusp of being AI. Just trivial things that. You're presented now in some coffee shops with a touchscreen, a big one, a huge, great big touchscreen to order your drinks. The guy or the lady across the desk doesn't ask you how your day's been. It's tap, 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 pay, and it still is somebody, here's your drink, but how long before it's not somebody, here's a drink, it just appears in a hole in the wall, which I'm sure there's a case somewhere. And I get there's already machines in petrol gas stations and stuff, but I'm not quite sure the quality of the coffee there. But yeah, and it's just that everything becomes the same. And who said to Google it's okay to put an AI answer to every query? When did that appeared? What, a year ago, maybe a bit longer?
Yeah.
And it took me a while to notice that. And by the way, in my opinion, for our listeners, the answers are always dreadful. Absolutely useless.
It depends on what you ask it, of course.
Well, indeed. But if you're saying, how do I repair a leaky tap or something, or a leaky faucet, as you would say, you'll get you go in the store and buy a wrench. Well, that's not the answer I want. But who decided that it was okay? That's the first answer. And I was saying to John, we may have mentioned it previously, that websites that hold information are seeing a huge drop off in the number of queries now, because the AI has already got the answer from the website and is displaying the answer in the AI response. So people aren't actually going to their websites. And if that's your business model, because you've got advertising there and all the rest of it, you go to your advertiser and say, well, we had 100,000 hits last week. And you go some next month and say, we had 50,000 hits last week, and then the website will cease to exist. So in 5 years' time, will the only response be an AI response, whether you like it or not? Can I see the source information anymore? So I find that all quite scary. Is too hard because I don't find many things in life scary, but it is a little bit depressing with a small d. That everything becomes homogenous. And have you got any thoughts on that? How we avoid that? Is it a bad thing? How do we avoid it?
Let's stop for a word from our sponsors.
Okay, so you're not vegetarian, but prefer your animals au naturel. Well, buckle up, breakfast lovers, because your moral compass and your taste buds are about to get a high five. Introducing from Oh Tech No, it's Neg. Yes, it might look like an egg, feel like an egg, and even taste like an egg. And it isn't a plant pretending really hard to be an egg. You see, those foul tech geniuses said, what if we could give people everything they love about eggs, without the guilt, the feathers, or next door? And voila, Neg was born, well, in a manner of speaking, amalgamating ethically sourced, wholesome ingredients such as, well, we're not legally required to tell you, but trust us, it's all the good stuff. Neg does everything a regular egg does, so next time you want a guilt-free omelet, don't think egg, think Neg, because you can love breakfast and hate cruelty. And honestly, the chickens are really grateful. Oh, Techno, you've only gone and blummin' done it again.
Today's episode is sponsored by Techno, helping yesterday, today. Techno is a subsidiary of Uncle Schnookums Enterprises, wholly owned and operated by Deforest Co. Global, pioneers in transforming the world's rainforests into your favorite products. All rights reserved. No claims or returns will be honored.
And we're back.
You bring up two really good things that I want to kind of unpack. The first one is the coffee shop. And this is where you want to get people fighting, arguing, bring up things like this. Because it brings into jobs. Oh, you're a horrible person because you're taking that job away from that person. Are you, though? Or are you amplifying their human experience by now pushing them to do something else, something bigger, something greater? There's not this, I don't want to say excuse. I worked at Starbucks when I was in college and I loved it.
Well, it's a job for people in a particular circumstance, isn't it?
And so there's that controversy. But I always kind of try to see the positive, like what would I have done in college? Well, I had the option to be a nanny or work at Starbucks. I didn't want to be a nanny because that seemed like a lot more work. Working at Starbucks seemed a lot easier, just being honest. But the other part of that is the human interaction. I interact with people. When I tell you this, I'm glad you're both sitting down because you'll be like, what? I always feel like I need a signed note from my psychologist every time I tell people I'm really an introvert. And when I interact with people and engage with people, it just exhausts me. And I've learned now to accept that and own it as who I am and plan rest days in, plan days in that I don't do any podcasts. I don't do any outbound communication because I just need that time for myself. So going and ordering a coffee and not having to talk to anyone is a dream for me. Like if there's, I plan out my places. Okay, this sandwich shop. I can key it in on the computer. I don't have to talk to anybody. I love that. Whereas I have friends who hate it. They want that human interaction. And so in those scenarios, I don't see why we can't have both. Why we can't have solutions. This is what I'm saying. Like there can be joy for both people. There can be joy for people who want to make AI movies. And there can be joy for people who want to have human movie. Yeah. The two can coexist. One doesn't have to cross the other one out. And then kind of coming back to your statement about the AI review, I think back to when I was, sneaking and using the internet in my college library, researching stuff. I'd research stuff and I'm like, because at that point, you could put whatever you want on. I mean, you could still put whatever you want on the internet as long as you're not hurting a kitty cat. That's like the number one rule. Don't hurt cats. But you can pretty much put whatever you want. And I would say that doesn't quite make sense. I would go back to the hard encyclopedias and check it to see, okay, does this make sense? And we kind of righted that ship over time. And that's what I see with the AI results and things like that. When I read them, I'm like, that doesn't quite make sense. Let me dig into. So now the native websites are becoming our encyclopedia books. We've still got to have some baseline, some norm, something that we go, yes, this is true. We've agreed that Encyclopedia Britannica is true. Or we've decided that these websites what they're saying is true. So I just see that parallel. I don't see the sites going away.
But so as I was saying, some of those websites have a business model that require people to click on them. So if the clicks are down, the revenue's down, and eventually you would imagine that the revenue could go to nothing or zero. And this is a concern. But I absolutely I agree with you. I mean, it's interesting enough. I consider I'm an introvert as well, and I live in England, but I'm from Scotland. So occasionally people struggle with my accent. So having a machine that I could just tap rather than having to repeat myself 3 times, I get that as well. But I do find that it's a bit of a funny scenario, isn't it? It's a bit like, I don't know, it's probably the same in the States, but there's thousands upon thousands of banks physical banks have closed on you because everybody does internet banking. And on one level, you think that's terrible. Oh, that's dreadful because these little towns have lost their bank. And then you realize I've not been in a bank for 10 years. So it's on one level, I abhor it, but on another level, I'm the cause of it. Not me personally, but I'm part, so it's yes, I do use AI, not as much as John. John's quite a fan. I don't mean that in any sense other than,
I do use it. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. But I don't, because I don't deliberately not use it. But I just find myself looking at the answers and thinking, no, thank you. That's not. It gives me a rough idea, but I have a rough idea already. I don't want a rough idea. I want a specific answer. So it's but as I say, I don't think the general population of the Western world or the entire world really has started to think about AI yet. Many people are still struggling with the internet as such, the World Wide Web. But I think, I think it's interesting you talked about the American gun law argument. I think there will be it's similar to the climate change that John referenced and ecological issues in the 70s and 80s. There will be a movement against AI, not
science, man.
Well, I don't know if you're familiar with the term Luddite, which was and sabotage, which was the French equivalent, where they used to put sabots, the shoes, into the looms and stuff. Yeah, so we've talked about Luddites, but John and I are going to do a podcast on Luddites because they're not quite what people thought they were.
Usually a Luddite, like that's what's like. I use a paper calendar. My admin laughs at me. He's like,
he's
like, how do you use a paper calendar? Because I am just, I don't want to say I'm so pro-human, but I feel like that's become our new, I'm pro-human, I'm pro-AI.
Yeah.
I like, like some tactical, tangible things. And I just honestly can be lazy. I don't want to have to learn a new technology. I have to learn something, which makes it that much more hysterical that I have a software as a service company. Like I'm a Luddite, but they're definitely, I know exactly what you're saying.
So it's only a matter of time, I think. So, I'm not sure in the US particularly, but in Western Europe, there's green parties that have formed coalition governments. And in the UK, there are green parties who trend about 10%, maybe a bit more. It's only a matter of time before there's a political party, I think, which is not anti-AI as such, but
will be constraining. They'll be going to legislate against it.
Yes, exactly. And you can imagine the young, all the young bright things leaving university at the moment, thinking, well, okay, yeah, because climate change to them is a given. Looking after the world as a single system, as a planet, is a given. So what's the big next fight? Well, it's, as they see it, the rise of AI. So it's it will be quite interesting 10 years time to look at how that develops, and obviously AI itself will have developed.
Yeah. So there was something that you did mention, which I'm interested in understanding why you said it. So you don't like ChatGPT. So, I don't tend to use, I tend to use Claude. And that's only because my son-in-law says, it's better. But
it's more creative than ChatGPT.
Yeah. When I use the questions I ask, I can't tell it, but maybe they're pretty bland questions.
Technically, ChatGPT is more factual, more data-driven, and Claude is more creative.
Well, I've read that, but I'm not sure, obviously I'm not asking the questions that need to be creative, not sure, but so you don't like ChatGPT just because it's technical, or you don't like it for another reason?
I don't like it because it's not, yes, you can work with it and you can try to personalize it and you can do all of this, but you're still, like we were talking about the social and virtue signaling. You're still part of a bigger pool. So you're still getting all of that, I don't want to say background, but that influence on it. And so it's not personalized to me. And that was always my frustration. And that's why when our tool that we work with LinkedIn does not use any of those. We have, it uses the actual writing style of the user. to make sure that we're following. Are they long, short, long sentence? Are they run on sentence? How many adverbs do they use? Like, it's really hard as a home user to get all of that in the back end of a Chat GPT or a Claude.
Right. So, I mean, do you have any favorite AIs? It's underlying AIs.
I do. Like, we just from a function perspective, we do use Chat GPT when we're checking any of our coding and things like that, because it is definitely superior in that arena. And then we use Claude as a way to kind of check our content. So when our ad writers are using our proprietary tool to write copy, we'll use Claude to go, hey, how do you feel about this? Just as a like in school with math, you would use division to check your multiplication and, vice versa. So we use them as a checkpoint as to kind of keep our system honest, but we don't use them as an actual standalone tool.
Right.
Do you have to give your colleagues guidance to how to interact with the AI, or is no? So there's no inside track, so to speak, of you'll get the best out of it by approaching it.
Well, because that's it's all prompt driven. Right. And so that's where, when you have something with the built-in prompt, which is what we use, then you can just type and you can just be, because it just like a human brain, you have all these experiences, all this education, all this prompt built in that you apply to these conversations, to these things. And so that's what they're trying to do with, okay, write the prompt like this, and then because it just doesn't have that back end. Right,
and there's no bias in the sense of it doesn't respond to different character traits. So if I'm, the extrovert, introvert is the extremes, isn't it? But does it respond better to certain types of individual character traits, or have you seen no evidence of that? Or
no, I would just say, like, play with the different ones, and know that if you want kind of a more engineering, analytical answer, and this isn't like this is how it is. Like, I mean, Chat GPT can still give some creative responses, but just holistically, if you're wanting something that's a little bit more data driven, and like when we're doing any of our, one of the services that we offer is doing our I don't want to say a financial review, but looking at our client's company as it compares to other companies in that same industry. So that's very math heavy, very not something I want to do. We do use more of a Chat GPT code on the back end for that than we do use a Claude code, because Claude is just, and there's benefits to both. It just depends on what you're trying to do, just like a human. We all have different skill sets. We're left brain, right brain, all of that. Just depends on what you're trying to do. There may have a better one. But so yes, for creative writing, I like Claude.
Have you seen some of these articles that talk about people having formed relationships with AIs?
Yes.
What?
I mean, what's your view on that one?
It's a great wide world out there, so we're not judging people. But what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on that?
It's so funny, because I think I say it a lot of times. Like, we've seen this movie before, like with the the websites and the AI overview versus the encyclopedia. And I have some girlfriends who I love. They are like, I would call them at 2 a.m. and they would come to me anywhere they are. But I promise you, they are more friends with the characters in their books that they read than they are real humans. They relate to them more. They can't wait to get home to read the next page, to see what happens to her. And I'm like, girl, my life is falling apart. I need you right now. Why do you think I read your book? So I try to kind of use that as a parallel.
That's a brilliant parallel. I've not seen anybody make that point in various articles I've seen before, but that's great. Sorry, so carry on. Yeah,
so that's it, really.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, it depends where you are in your life as well. If you're what's the word? Influence isn't quite right, but if you're a teenager that's easily influenced, there's a term for it, but I can't think of it. We all carry the books we read in our head at 15, 16, 13. Somebody, I don't know if you ever got it in the States, but somebody just yesterday was quoting me pages out of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and this guy was 62. So he hasn't read the book for 40 odd years, or maybe he reads it every month for all I know. It wasn't John Hathaway. It was somebody at a museum that I volunteer at, and and I get that. I haven't quite got that, but I sort of get it. But you're right. But I guess the difference is, if you're 45 years old, 50, is it less healthy? But why not? Does it do any harm? Well, so far not. Although there are stories of at least one AI suggesting things to teenagers which isn't necessarily in their best interest. I don't know if you've seen some of those stories.
think Stephen King falls in that category.
Well, that's true as well. Absolutely, you're absolutely right. No, I could never read those books. But I do. I had friends who did. But you're absolutely right. There is no difference, is there? You're right, Preston. I guess the difference is that it's there. It's a suggestion rather than you've read the book and you feel, well, okay, perhaps I should do this.
Suggestion. This character did it, or this character thought it, or this. It kind of just comes back to the human experience and where we regulate in ourselves and our own, like what we feel our own north to be, which is influenced by our parents, our schools, our communities. And so that's where I think that, like, as a whole, it's going to take a lot. Like, it would take a lot for someone to get me on board with Stephen King, a lot of community influence, a lot of nurturing for that to happen. And I just don't think that there is enough time or following it's for AI to get that kind of following.
Yeah. And my last question on that, and John and I were talking about this, I think whether it's a clinically approved thing now, I don't know, but there's also talk of using AI as and the expression goes straight in my head, counselling for mental health issues.
Therapy.
Therapy. And apparently it's quite successful. But again, given the scarce resources of real counselling, I can see why it's an advantage. But I suppose the problem is, as soon as these people must know it's not a real person, and they've somehow formed a bond, because otherwise, why would you engage? And is that healthy? And with a big H for society, I wonder.
And we've talked about this on my podcast, the Superwoman Handbook, about trauma, generational trauma, and how cycles continue, patterns continue. And not to say that as humans, we're not special and unique, but for the most part, you can go, oh, that person is this personality. Oh, that person. And you know what they're going to do next. You have these patterns. And so if you can build that, so we try to train our psychologists with that in school. Hey, you're going to encounter patients that present like this. Here's how you help them. Or patients that present like this. Here's how you help them. It's not just a free for all. Okay, you can talk to people and they'll rewire their brains however you want to. Like, there's a structure. And so building that structure into something like an app, it's going to sound horrible, but it could be a good thing because apps don't make mistakes.
Yeah.
They follow the pattern. They don't care if you have long hair, short hair. They don't care. So as if I was a counselor and I broke up with my boyfriend yesterday, I'm personally carrying that. I'm going to tell myself that I'm going to separate, that I am going to not carry that into now my boyfriend that I just broke up with looks like, smells like, talks like the guy that this person's telling me about. Whether he really fits that pattern, it's hard to separate out your human. It's hard to kind of be impartial. And so I do like that it gives an affordable access. Mental health is something that is, I think paramount everywhere. It also to stigma-free access. That's what I hear from a lot of people. They don't want to have to put it on their calendar to take off from work to go to see a psychiatrist because they're crazy, or they're afraid it's going to impact their law license or medical license or things like that. There's a lot of stigma around it. Access, affordability, the consistency with the treatment, making sure that you have, just like anything, we have good psychologists, bad psychologists, making sure that way we can really get I don't want to say a structure, but a structure around kind of, hey, here's how we handle this personality type. That said,
consistency, you mean? Yeah.
Consistency. There you go. That said, I think about the story about how when they're taking cows to slaughter, someone was complaining, gosh, it's their last few moments in life. Why do you have them all packed in there together? Let them run free, give them some breathing room. And they actually said, no, that's the kind way. It feels like a hug. They feel the body weight of the other cows around them. And it's like your dog laying on your lap or on your foot or something like that. You feel that hug. So there is value in human connection. It kind of comes back to just because you can doesn't mean you should. It forces us to decide, where should we use these tools? Where do they need to stop? And then do we have hugging clinics? You go to a hug clinic? Again, I'm pulling this out of the air, but these things that there is no way AI, like when I'm having a bad day, there's nothing I want more than my dog to come lay on my lap. Hear her snoring, feel her breathing. You can't duplicate that. So there are some things that in my mind, they're just never gonna go.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Well, I think we're coming to the end of the session. I'm sure we could carry on talking for a lot longer, but I'm sure you got a lot of things to do, Gillian. This has been really interesting. And I don't think we covered all stuff as per normal. You know, it's typical with the podcast when we have really good guests on, we start talking and going off at tangents and all that type of stuff. But it's been really interesting, and hopefully maybe in a year's time we'll contact you again and then look back. You know, I mean, it's one of these interesting technologies. The trajectory is currently unknown, other than people are saying it's very steep. And it will be interesting to see just how high it's got, you know, if we leave it that long, you know. I mean, and that's not even that long, 12 months, say. You know, it's not, that's assuming we're all still here, you know. But anyway, that's a different...
so just for the benefit of our listeners, is your podcast the Superwoman Handbook?
It's a Superwoman Handbook.
Right, yes.
Oh, sorry, that's my mistake. I said the Superwoman, yeah.
Right. Sorry, say that again. Say that again for us.
The Superwoman Handbook.
Right. Okay. Is that available on all podcast platforms?
All podcast platforms.
Excellent. Yep. Okay. So I'll this afternoon. But we would recommend it based on your fantastic opinions and ability to articulate stuff that we struggle to answer, to question, never mind answer. So that's been really, really good today, as was the last one. So thank you very much.
I love hanging out with y'all. It's always fun.
Okay.
Good. That's great.
Enjoy the rest of your...
Yeah, thanks everybody. We shall be back with another podcast soon. Bye for now.
Goodbye.
And that's it. We hope you've enjoyed today's episode. But after listening to us natter on, why not let us know what you think? Find us on Blue Sky by searching for Chats in Time. On Facebook, search ORC Time. And on X, we are ORC_time. Until next time, cheerio!